Hey everyone, Voice of Reason 467 here, and I figured I'd go ahead and talk a little bit about what's been going on the internet right now. Primarily, there seems to be a cadre of Clinton supporters who seem to be blaming Bernie supporters for, well, the loss of Roe v. Wade. I mean, never mind the fact that we have a cadre of other civil rights losses in such a fashion that indicates that this is simply just an issue of theocratic agenda spewing. But no, it has to be brought over to the Bernie supporters because we didn't vote for Clinton in 2016. Now, I'll admit that I voted for third party in 2016 primarily because Clinton didn't want my vote. Okay? And I think it's important to bring the facts of the matter to the table here, because when it comes down to it, these people are not dealing in facts. All right. Now, let's make it perfectly clear here. Clinton's own staffer suggested using and we know this because of internal memos. Her own staffers literally suggested to use Trump as a Pied Piper candidate and use their media connections to quite literally pump Trump up in the ratings, really, to make it so that way Trump would be a constant and consistent voice there to lead people into voting for him in the primaries in such overwhelming fashion that they would win simply by running to the right after the primaries. I want to make that perfectly clear here, because when Clinton won the 2016 primary, even though I will admit Bernie supporters were extremely salty about it, I was extremely salty about it. We kept telling her that, Clinton, you need to go ahead and pick up Bernie's proposals in terms of what is popular with regards to the United States of America, all right, and the United States citizens. She didn't want to do that, all right? She didn't want to pick up the $15 an hour minimum wage. She wanted to do $12 an hour minimum wage, which seems good until you realize that $15 at the time was considered the conservative option at the time. In case you didn't know, at the time, people were suggesting, and economists were, you can find this out, to raising the minimum wage to $30 an hour. You see the problem here? The $15 an hour minimum wage was the lowest we could possibly go here, okay? People wanted Clinton to also advocate for Medicare for all, and a Medicare for all system, because time and time again, Medicare for all polling, and you can look this up yourself here, I'm not blowing any smoke with you on this part, Medicare for all was literally a policy that was so popular, it was popular amongst Republicans in the 60s range, and it was popular among Democrats in the high 70s, early 80s percentile range. No matter which poll you would pick, that's how it would go, really. Now, of course, there was issues with funding, whether it would be done through taxation, whether it would be done through taxing, doing a cumulative income tax for everyone, or whether it would be like a progressive tax rate. You would get different answers on that, but that was mainly questions of funding here. Overall, people supported the idea of having government provide Medicare for all and getting rid of the private insurance industry. That was a popular position. Clinton didn't want to take that up. And not only that, the staffers under Hillary Clinton more or less suggested, and she herself suggested as well, that by running to the right, that she would pick up 5 conservatives for every 1 progressive she lost. These are the reasons why Clinton lost. That and her extreme unpopularity at the time. A person at Twitter recited the nuisance, of course, to me that, the news to me that her voting or whatever, the amount of people that voted was in the 65% range, total people who voted. All right, meaning that 45% of people didn't vote. Why didn't they vote? It's because Clinton was unpopular and she couldn't animate them in any particular fashion to get them to vote for her. All right. Now, I voted for Biden on the second time around because Trump was so deeply endemically unpopular that the very idea of me voting for third party didn't make much sense at all. The reason why I voted for third party in terms of in terms of the 2016 election was because Clinton didn't want my fucking vote. She just didn't. She flat out just didn't. So why should I have to go ahead and vote for her when she doesn't want my vote, when she doesn't want my policies? It's pretty obvious to me what the issue was there. That Clinton was unpopular, that she didn't put up the correct policies, and she didn't fight for the policies that she wanted that would get her elected, and that's why she lost. Now, granted, she did win the popular vote, but that's irrelevant because she lost the Electoral College. And the reason why she lost the Electoral College is because she didn't get enough votes and enough swing states to secure the amount of Electoral College votes needed to make her presidency. I don't get why it is Clinton supporters are going around trying to proclaim that somehow Bernie supporters are to blame for Roe v. Wade, when the vast majority, if not all of the problems with what happened there were her staffers, her strategy, as well as all the unpopularity that she did, as well as the fact that she literally engineered the 2016 primary so that way she could win the Democratic nominee. She put Debbie Wasserman Schultz in her place and whatnot, in the place that she needed to be in order to be able to direct the DNC. She had a number of people. Of course, I'm not entirely too sure if that's what she did. I'm pretty sure staffers under her and whatnot. And there were a lot of staffers that were also her, that used to be former Clinton staffers that were in the DNC. She had a number of them purge votes. Voters from the fucking Democratic nomination that could vote for the Democratic nominee in New York City. In fact, what was it? I think there was 18,000. What was it? No, not 18,000. 18,000 votes in the primaries were rejected in 2016 in that primary in terms of the ballots and whatnot, the mail-in ballots, and there were 200,000 people over in New York City who were purged off their rolls. And it wasn't even an accident. I'll put the links down below in the description section there for you guys to understand this, but it's important to understand that the only reason why Clinton lost was because of Clinton. Bernie voters, like myself, who she didn't even want, whose votes that she thought that she could replace with 5 different conservatives who hate her, by the way, is somehow, people like me are not to blame here, okay? I don't get why it is that these Clinton supporters are scurrying outside of their little rocks to nag at us when all we're doing is telling the truth. And all we're really doing is actually reacting to, well, what's been happening with the Supreme Court and Roe v. Wade, as well as all the other decisions that have been made here. There's a clear pattern here. You want to blame someone? Blame the theocrats that are putting this shit up on board, really. Why the fuck are you coming after us? We're fighting on the exact same side you are, but you want to come at us and say that, oh, Clinton would have won and she wouldn't have done any of this stuff or whatever. Yeah, sure, she probably wouldn't have done this, but she would have done a number of other corporate bits of bullshit, and she would have put in place a number of corporate wins that would have made it possible to have things like climate change to become completely ignored on the constitutional level. So, I don't know about you, but not being able to deal with climate change as a possible alternative to Roe v. Wade isn't exactly something that's keeping my mind at ease with regards to Hillary Clinton would have been better.